everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Last Word. I am not Iggy. Most of you are probably watching me like, hey, I thought Iggy hosted the last episode, and you would be right. He and I switch off episodes just to confuse you. So hi, I am Q. I am with Project Nerd. I am also co-host of High Five, the podcast on the Project Nerd Podcast Network. I am joined by a plethora of new faces to the Project Nerd Network. We have, let's see if I can point the right way. Here we go. We have Jeff with CF3. Hello, Jeff. How are you, sir?
Doing good. How are you tonight, sir?
Oh, doing fantastically well. About ready to see if we can make all of you just like in-fight to the max is the goal.
Shouldn't take too much time.
Oh, perfect. Excellent. Over to my other side here. Let's see if I can point. Nope. Still pointing the same side. Nope. Still the same side. There we go. I've got Dames. What's up, Dames?
What up, people?
Now, Dames here is also a member of the CF3 show, currently streaming on our Project Nerd YouTube channel. It is also on their YouTube channel, but a great announcement that is coming to the world, and they've started talking about it on their social media, is that it is also about to be exclusively on the Project Nerd YouTube. Everybody's head just exploded. Like, everybody's like freaking out. Boom! There's chaos. Cats and dogs living together. Then let's see if I can point right down here. We have Dane. What's up, Dane? How are you? Also a member of CF3.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my darling. Hello, my ragtime gal.
Oh, you got him singing.
That music, that theme music really got me going.
That's how you get people to watch the show. It's just like singing and dancing. That's what people tune in for. Now, he is also the last member of CF3. So these three gentlemen are all, they are CF3. And then we have Stephanie here. Hello, Stephanie. How are you?
Peachy Keen. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Now, Stephanie, also Jedi Moon Cosplay, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And co-host of another brand spanking new Project Nerd show, Con Moms. Now, for everybody that's wondering, yes, it is a show about interviewing the mothers of incarcerated people. It's true. It's
tragic. It's gonna make
really
you cry.
hard. It's really hard hitting. Like, we were like, what do we need in Project Nerd? And we were like, tears. Lots of tears and depressing stories. That's what we want.
Mm-hmm.
No, in reality, Cosmoms is a show all about cosplay, the cosplay world, the con life, if you will. And by con, we mean convention. And Sarah and Stephanie take us on a guided tour of the ins and outs of that world. Now, if you're wondering about what CF3 is about, that's a whole nother thing, man. These guys are doing a video show on the YouTube where they interview cult film related people and actually entice them into rating their own films, right? Like you guys rate their films, and then you're also like, help us rate your film, which is one of the most brilliant concepts ever. So if you haven't already binged watched it, go watch all of their episodes. Go listen to their back catalog of their show. It's a good time. Now that introductions are out of the way, we'll get to the meat of what everybody's here for, and that is for a brand new episode of The Last Word. Now, The Last Word is exactly what it sounds like. These four contestants will be competing to have tonight's last word. Now, this game is divided. This game is divided into three segments. Round one, all four will answer two questions. Now, it's pretty simple. Based on your answers, you will be awarded points. Now, the real trick is these points aren't really given in any sort of system. It's basically whatever answer I like best. So, if you could somehow work my name into your answer, or somehow plug something I'm working on, that's all great. It probably will help you score points. Maybe not, though. I don't know. Maybe I'll ding you for it. Who knows? But at the end of round one, the person with the lowest amount of points will be eliminated from the show and removed from the broadcast altogether. We will go on progressively through rounds 2 and 3 until we have 2 members left that will battle off in round 3. And the winner of that will be tonight's The Last Word champion. And they will have the opportunity to plug whatever they want for 30 seconds. Okay, everybody understands how the rules work?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Can you say them again?
Okay, yes, I can. All right, so this is how the game works. Round 1.
Fight!
All right, guys, round 1. The first question here, it's an easy one, right? I'm just lobbing it out there. Softball for you guys, okay? Now, question 1 is, these days it seems every network and studio is jumping on the streaming bandwagon, right? By attaching a plus to their name. You know, we're looking at you, Discovery Plus, Paramount Plus, Disney Plus. So what I want to know, exactly, what I want to know is, when is enough enough? Do you guys feel that there's room for all of these individual platforms? Or do you long for the consolidated days of cable, or even an aggregate streamer like YouTube, TV, Fubo, or Sling? Let's go with Jeff. You can give us the first answer of the night.
I'm going to say you have a death wish if you want to keep on going with all the plentiful platforms that are out there. The bubble's going to burst at some point, and you're already going to be paying more money for the 7 apps you want to do versus paying on cable.
Mm-hmm. That's a strong opinion. Dane, what do you feel about that?
Q, remember when cord cutting meant something? Because now we need stream damming, I think is what we need. Because there's too many streaming services. I saw the commercial for Paramount Plus the other day, and I was like, what do they even have? They have like Forrest Gump, okay? Now, the good thing about this compared to cable is I can easily subscribe or unsubscribe on a monthly basis to any of these services that I want. So in the rare event that like the Peacock actually has something that's cool, I will only subscribe for 1 month. And by the way, like there is only like one good thing on Peacock right now. So you can do the free trial, be done with it. But yeah, so I like it because like I hated the days of cable where you're bound to this for like 2 years and paying all this money. So.
All right. Another strong opinion. I like that. Stephanie, what do you got?
I think it is killing television. And this is why Netflix started this trend. Netflix is the leader of why this is actually damaging the shows that we watch. They are notorious for getting a new show, getting a new IP, hyping everyone up. Come in, let's watch it. Let's get your subscription. Now you're in for a year. Now you're in for 2 seasons. Guess what? 3rd season, 2nd season, boom, canceled. And you're going to be mad about it, but you're not going to cancel because look at all these other IPs that we've acquired. Netflix is the king of doing it, and they are teaching the other streaming services to do the same. It's happened with Dark Crystal, and I will never not be salty over it. It happened with Santa Clarita Diet. I'm still salty over it, but guess what? Who still has a Netflix account? This girl.
Man, some passionate responses coming out here. Dames, what do you got?
Well, to agree with Stephanie, first of all, on the Netflix thing, they have a penchant for acquiring a property and then ruining it, like Designated Survivor. They acquired that. It was a great show while it was on cable TV, but then when Netflix says, oh, we can make it with cussing and all this now, and it just ruined the show. So point for her, from me, for that one. But I bought a house a few years ago. I started out with DirecTV, and that was basically so I could get the NFL games. But I thought about this. After the 3rd year my contract was up, I went from $125 a month to over $300 a month for satellite service. Whoa. So I had to do something. At that point, I looked at all the different subscription services that were out there, and I'm a guy for accountability, man. Like, people make up all my answers are going to be based on what people think and what they can do for themselves. And I want those corn nuts, Dane. But you have to make choices. You have to make choices, right? So with all these different things, what's not to keep us from going the third-party route and getting an illegal subscription to something that's out there where we can get everything, which is what I've done. And for people like us in the cult film industry, we want to watch things that you can't get on normal streaming services. So I have the ability to just type in whatever I want. there's a link for it, and I can watch it. And it's like $28 a month. So, I mean, there's ways around it. I hate that, but I'm guilty of it.
All right, fair enough. Man,
One time! You blow a gut one time!
We got some pretty strong answers here. While you guys were chatting, I was tabulating points just based on my thoughts here. So I'm going to break them down for you guys. I think everybody had solid points. It all kind of sounded like you were in agreement. Jeff, your answer was just too short and sweet for me. So I gave you 1 point in this round. Dane, I do have a question. What is the best show on Peacock right now?
Saved by the Bell, of course.
All right, you just get 3 points instead of 2 because that is the correct answer. So 3 points to Dane. Dame, you had 2 points, but then you got knocked down to 1 because you promoted illegal services on a Project Nerd Network live television show. So I can't say that I don't agree with you, but I must say, as a Project Nerd representative, that I don't agree with you. Stephanie.
That's the way it goes, man. Accountability. I'm all
As a
about it.
CF3 representative, Jeff and I don't agree with him either.
And that's 99% of the time anyway.
And Stephanie, finally, you get 2 points for pure passion alone. I think you came out of the gate. I agree with you. Santa Clarita Diet was one of the greatest shows on Netflix. I think it doesn't get enough play or love. So for that alone, you get 2 points. So we're ending the first half of round 1 with Jeff at 1 point, Dames at 1 point, Dane at 3 points because Saved by the Bell is really good, and Stephanie at 2 points. Oh, man. All right. Here we go. Going into question 2. With WandaVision in full swing and a bona fide hit for the Disney Plus platform, rumors and theories have been flying over a potential crossover with the FXU, the Fox X-Men universe, opening the MCU to potential crossovers from all corners of the Marvel pantheon. Do you think that there is room for the X-Men as we already know them in the MCU? Or in the immortal words of The Offspring, do we gotta keep them separated? Let's go with Dames.
All right. I actually am one for exploring all possibilities of something. And again, accountability. You, the person, can decide what you want to watch. And I use a couple of examples here. Indiana Jones 4. You can just say, you know what? I was done at 3. 4 doesn't exist to me. You have that ability as a human being to not watch something if it's not something that you're going to be pardoned to later on. Same thing with the Star Wars prequels or the sequels. You could just say, you know what, 4, 5, and 6, that was my Star Wars. I don't need the others. You have that ability to do that. So for me, there's no bound. Just bring it on. I want content. I want to see these characters fully fleshed out in every possible way.
All right. I respect that answer. Stephanie, what do you got?
I feel like just the presence of the Marvel What If show and the comic crossovers of DC and Marvel already is proof enough. There is room for both. There is absolutely room to mesh all these through, throw them at the wall, see what sticks. But I feel like the real question that we're missing here is, have the studios learned their lesson about overstuffing movies? Because just because they did it twice, okay, probably more than okay. I cheered at the theater too. With the Infinity War saga, great. Awesome, wonderful, does not erase the Spider-Man 3 fiasco, does not erase it, still not sure if they've learned from it. So that's the real question. You want Storm to wield Mew Mew? Let Storm wield Mew Mew. But can you actually balance the characters in all of this ensemble into a compelling film where we actually have good, strong character storylines and narratives and growth, and it's not just there for, ooh, buzz, and they're gone?
I do like that too. Strong. I like that you also referred to it as Mew Mew. Dane, what do you got going on? Speaking of Mew Mew.
Listen here, Q. At all. The MCU needs the X-Men. And there's 2 factors here that make it palatable now for us, and even for those who were probably resistant to it. One, MCU's lost the Black Panther, essentially. This was going to be their figurehead going into the next phase. He's gone. They're not replacing T'Challa, so I don't know what they're going to do with the next Black Panther movie. Second, the demise of the Fox X-Men films themselves. They kind of petered out. I didn't even watch the last one because it was so poorly received. I think the best way to do this is to slowly bring in a few characters at a time. Remember how they brought in Tom Holland into a Captain America Civil War movie instead of here's the new Spider-Man in his own movie, accept him. No, they're like, let's let him interact with the people in the MCU you already know. So bring in just like a smaller character. We've already seen 2 Quicksilvers, one in each universe, and I was totally fine with that. So I trust that they know what they're doing.
All right, I respect that. I like that. RIP to Chadwick Boseman. I will be missing him definitively in the MCU moving forward for sure. Jeff, how could you follow that up?
I'd follow that up. I very much agree with Dane on a lot of what he said, though. What I see, though, is you have to introduce this slowly. Carrying over to Stephanie's point, you can't over dilute the market right away. You can't have Fantastic Four. You can't have all the X-Men. You can't have like Deadpool. You can't just have them all just show up and everything's reset, rebooted. You gotta ease into this. People have been burned on Fantastic Four for years. People are burned out on X-Men. You can't just smash it all together right away. Ease into it. I say what's going to be very telling is what happens with Deadpool. That looks like that's one of the first upcoming full feature films that Disney's going to be backing. How true is this going to stay to the Fox version of these movies? They say they're going to leave it untouched, but will they? That's where I'm going to put my point. I am very eager to see X-Men involved. If they could get Hugh Jackman just for a cameo, I think that would go a long way towards reestablishing some faith in what Marvel and Disney can do together.
I like that answer. Definitely. Man, I had to rework some of my tabulations here just because as I was hearing things as they were going on, I had to pit you guys against each other in a mano-a-mano match in my head. It was very strange. But I will say at the end of this round, here's where I stand. Jeff, you gained 2 points for that because you mentioned Deadpool. And for me personally, in regards to this question, I think that's going to be a sticking point. It depends on how they take a character that's already established in an R-rated environment and they integrate him into the MCU as it currently exists. For me, that's one of the biggest questions. So I love that. So you've got 3 points at the end of this round. Stephanie, once again, you're just full of passion, which makes me really excited. You're getting excited, which makes me excited. I agree. I think you and Jeff had a lot of the same points. So I awarded you 1 point, which also brings you to 3 points. So you and Jeff are currently tied. Now here's the situation. Dane, one of you gained enough points to stick around, and one of you is going to be the loser of round 1. The person that gained 2 points in this round, or excuse me, the person that gained, 2 points in this round is going to be, drumroll, I can't drum on my desk because it'll shake the camera like crazy. It's Dane. Dane, you gained 2 points. That brings you to 5 points. You are the leader of the game right now. Dames, I'm so sorry. I heard your impassioned plea, but I just still think of you as a criminal, so you've got to go. So thank you for joining us. Everybody say goodbye, Dames.
Bye, Dames.
Get out of here, you're drunk.
Fool.
Now, that brings to you 3 and the beginning of round 2. Now, the best part about round 2 is the loser gets to wait backstage and still just watch the rest of the show in sadness and isolation. They'll be brought on at the end to say goodbye to everyone. But for the 3 who have continued on to round 2, this is where the gloves come off, guys. This is where the questions get serious, all right? And speaking of serious, question 1 is about the pandemic. And I don't know about how much more serious you can get than that. After a full year of pandemic living and vaccinations just beginning to roll out, platforms have been putting out quarantine/COVID themed programming for a while, right? We've got Netflix's Social Distance, we've got NBC's Connecting, and most recently, HBO Max put out a movie called Lockdown, which legit is a pandemic heist comedy film. I don't even know what's happening there. Do you feel like viewers still have a stomach for COVID-themed movies and television, or is it time for that kind of stuff to go the way of the dodo? Let's go with Dane first. What do you got?
So comedy is tragedy plus time. I don't think enough time has passed for a movie like that HBO pandemic comedy you described to really take hold. But I see that these as being very limited. I don't think they're going to last that much longer. However, like this new format, like shows like The Last Word, this is the new normal in a way. And things like Zoom are replacing regular workplace and always will. So I do think there's definitely going to be room on network schedules for things like this, on streaming services as well. I just don't think making them specifically about COVID is the immediate future. Because we're done with that. We don't want to talk about that anymore.
COVID's in the past, right? Jeff, what do you think about that?
A little bit to Dane's point, it might be a little soon. As evidenced by TV shows in the past. I mean, things like Invasion came around the time of a hurricane. You also have the issue of maybe this might actually stick and it turns into like a Survivor, because people do have a fantastic love for trashy reality shows, whether they're really trashy or they're actually pretty decent. They just happen to go the wrong way. Or they last for 25 years and nobody understands why. It could stick, could happen, but I don't see it personally.
I like that answer. Reality shows are my weakness. I do love them. Stephanie, what do you think?
I think there's absolutely a place for it. I think the problem is they're going at it about the wrong angle, and they're doing a serious, realistic genre when we already have the perfect genre for tackling this topic. Sci-fi, fantasy, alternate reality, it's right there. That is the kind of thing it was made for. Speculative fiction was made to take these concepts that were scary and big and hard to understand and hard to contextualize, and not only put them in a way that we can actually understand them and think about them, but in a way that we can feel empowered to do something. That superheroes, the best superheroes are the ones that we see ourselves in. And so this is something that we can do and to tackle COVID. I was actually just replaying one of my old childhood favorite formative RPGs, Neverwinter Nights, the original. And the first segment of it, for those that haven't played it before, you are dealing with a fantasy plague in the city of Neverwinter. You are a hero, a graduate of the Heroes Guild, and you have to go around and find all of the reagents for the cure for the plague. And we don't worry about distribution models. We don't worry about all that. We worry about the effects that it's having on the city. We worry about raising the morale. We worry about finding these creatures, making alliances, and doing the right thing, and watching yourself level up and becoming more and more powerful. And so then you can take it on and tackle this thing that just has brought so much devastation to so many. And so there's a real opportunity there, but everybody's missing it for the serious dramas instead of actually doing what this genre does best and give people hope and the will and the just the desire to keep fighting and see the light at the end of the tunnel and move forward.
Man. Okay. So just to make sure I understood your answer, for clarification's sake.
Yeah, because that was a lot.
What you're saying is that these COVID pandemic or anything that's kind of related to the pandemic in any sense should be more fictionalized, more fantasy-esque, and
go with the speculative fiction genre.
Sure. So kind of roll it into, essentially it would just continue to be things that are already existing, right? I think Jeff just like took himself out of the show.
I thought you kicked him out.
I did not. He was like, my answer sucks compared to these two. I can't even hang. Maybe his internet dropped out. Hopefully he'll come back. But in the meantime, I just wanted to clarify. So that's what you were saying, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. With that said, I agree with all of you to an extent for sure. So I'm going to award points as thus. And if Jeff doesn't come back, it's really going to change the point awarding thing here. But we're just going to roll with it. Cause he actually earned some points back, from his first round. So points are awarded as such. Dane, you get a point this round. This was a tough question. I thought you had a very straightforward answer. I did like the fact that you name checked the last word, but I also thought you might be pandering to the host. So instead of 2 points, you get 1. Jeff earned 2 points because I thought he had a very good point. Unfortunately, he's not here to receive them. So moving on, that brings him to 3 points. Dane, that brings you to a total of 6 points. Excuse me, that brings Jeff to 5 points. Dane, that brings you to 6 points. Stephanie, I really enjoyed your answer. I thought that it was a creative way to tie kind of what was happening with a possible alternative to programming. You weren't saying that type of programming needs to go away, but you were saying it can continue on, but maybe in a different format. And I like that. I feel like that's some creative thinking and out of the box. So I awarded you 2 points. So in my head already here on the paper, I had you and Jeff tied with 5 points. Now, with Jeff seemingly gone from the show potentially, by default, that is the tiebreaker. So, Stephanie, you will continue on. Dane, you will continue on. Jeff, I'm so sorry. I was going to break a pool cue and have you guys fight to the death anyway. So I guess this is a better alternative. So for you two, because I still got an extra question that I definitely want to ask, we'll go ahead and we'll make round 3 2 questions. Are you ready? Round 3. Begin. All right. Here we are at the final round, and I'm going to give you 2 questions in round 3. Normally it'd only be 1, but because Jeff likes to buck the system, we've rearranged the game on the fly. So here we go. Question 1 of round 3. When Get Out was released back in the theater-going days of 2017, it was a cultural and box office phenomenon, landing itself in the top 35 highest-grossing horror films of all time, catapulting Jordan Peele into the celebrity stratosphere, and generating real, honest, and open thought and discussion about the Black experience in America. Now, 3 years later, released on December 25th of 2020, Emerald Fennell's Promising Young Woman was a film poised to have the same level of impact with its confrontation of the normalization of toxic male behavior and victim shaming. Yet, it is still flying under the radar of most of the general public due to the pandemic. Due to the pandemic, shuttering theaters and pushing movies to streaming platforms without proper advertising. That said, do you think that we can still have an indie cultural phenomenon in our current release paradigm on the level of a Get Out?
Who are you asking?
I know, I'm thinking. Stephanie almost looked like she gasped, like, ooh, this is tough. So I'm going to go with Stephanie. Stephanie, what do you got for
Dang
me?
it. I was really hoping I wouldn't be first. Okay. This is a really rough one because it's very complex. There's a lot going on here. There's already the convoluted and very money focused way that movies are released to a wider audience into theaters. There's the struggling theater aspect. There's how many of them are going to shutter, the accessibility of it, who's going to get licenses to what streaming platforms feel that these indie films are going to be profitable. But what is really going to make something a phenomena right now in our paragon has nothing to do with that. It is everything to do with what is memeable. Grips the public conscious is the Tiger King. Would that have occurred if we were not all like sequestered in our homes, unable to do? I don't know. Probably not to the level. I have a lot of my female friends getting very thirsty over Bridgerton right now. So it's just in my face, and I'm just like, good for you, honey. Good for you. So can an indie thing happen? Yes, it can. But I feel like it's also just going to come down to like what the randomness of the internet and Twitter storm and meme lords are going to churn out is going to drive it. As far as what's going to become like a pop culture darling, and who even knows what the actual like rank and file movie theaters and like the money chain is going to do on that end, because that is a frustrating convoluted experience.
All right, solid answer. Dane, what do you got?
So I was hoping I would have gotten to go first for this because I absolutely had Tiger King as the example. Yes, nobody knew anything about this before the pandemic, and we can still have it we can have these things without it having a bankable star in it, because nobody knew who, the Tiger King was. Social media is what drives everything. And so social media has not been harmed by the pandemic. It's only, been amplified and increased. Now, for the specific example of Promising Young Woman, which I have not seen, I've seen the trailer and it looks like a riot. It looks amazing. For that specific example, that's tough because like I personally have wanted to watch it, but I don't want to spend the $19.99 rental fee. It's not on a streaming service like the things that we've seen, break out. I think because Carey Mulligan is in position actually to win Best Actress, she and Frances McDormand are fighting it out tooth and nail for Best Actress. I think that's the type of thing that could help the movie explode. Remember what happened with Parasite last year? Foreign film, first one to ever win Best Picture. And just before the pandemic, it made waves. And most people were watching that during the pandemic when it hit Hulu. So if Promising Young Woman can find a streaming service, I'm not sure if it's coming to one or not. I know Nomadland is, and that's like another competitive film for Best Picture, and all these other ones are in there. But I think it needs that to find its footing in a time when theaters are being closed down. So,
I like that answer. Now, Stephanie, quick question before I award points here: have you seen Promising Young Woman yet?
I have not. No.
Okay, so I can't rate either one of you on that ground, so I will not remove or give points for that fact. May I use this moment to say, everyone should see Promising Young Woman. If you had any sort of reaction or conversation after you saw Get Out, you will have the same thing after this, guaranteed. It is one of the finest films that I have seen, in the simple sense that they were able to distill a feeling of a certain consciousness and experience that I am not privy to, and put it in a way that I can digest and understand it. And it instantly made me aware of things that I have done in my life that I was like, oh shit, like I didn't even think about this before. So everyone should go see it. Now I will say, I'm going to award Stephanie, I'm going to give you 1 point, and I will say why. Mainly because I did like the fact that you addressed Tiger King. That's what I was looking for, definitely, as an example of things that can still explode. But I feel like your explanation and your answer went further away from necessarily addressing this film in particular in the distribution model. Whereas Dane, I think you hit the nail on the head. You also brought up Tiger King, although it was suspiciously after Stephanie said it. But you did bring up the fact that I agree with you wholeheartedly. I do think that finding a streaming service nowadays is the way to make a movie more widely accessible. I think putting it behind a $20 paywall right now is kind of to the detriment in a lot of cases to the actual film finding that wide audience. So Dane, you get 2 points. Stephanie, you get 1 point. Now that doesn't mean the game's over, because we have one final question that'll bring it all home. All right. So right now, I've got Dane at 8 points, and I've got Stephanie at 6 points. So you only trail by 2, Stephanie. All right. And this last round, I could award 1,000,000 points. I don't know to the winning answer. So we'll see how it goes. Final question. With comics and books being constantly mined for television programs, such as upcoming adaptations of Neil Gaiman's Sandman and Lee Bardugo's Shadow and Bone at Netflix, or successful adaptations of Matt Ruff's Lovecraft Country and Philip Pullman's His Dark Materials at HBO, what is a yet-to-be-adapted property that you would like to see make the jump from page to screen? And let's go with Dane.
You're hilarious, my man. So I'm a cult film buff, as evidenced by the theme of our show. And one of my favorite movies that I saw in recent years went straight to Netflix, starred Eddie Murphy, and it was called Dolomite Is My Name. And it was about a cult film icon, Rudy Ray Moore, who starred as Dolomite in several blaxploitation features in the 70s. And it wound up being an amazingly hilarious, like behind the scenes of this guy's career comedy on Netflix. And I don't do a lot of reading. I'm an English major, don't really like to read that much, but I do read like autobiographies of cult filmmakers. So recently I've been diving into Adventures in the B-Movie Trade by Brian Trenchard Smith, who is a cult film director behind movies like BMX Bandits. And I just want to see more movies like this. Here's another one, On the Cheap, My Life in Low Budget Filmmaking by director Grayton Clark, who directed Joysticks. These are people we've interviewed, and that's not the only reason why I would want to see, their lives put on screen. They really have good stories to tell, and it's hilarious hearing about what people go through making very low budget movies. And it's not sexy, like a huge franchise, but it would certainly attract me as a viewer. So,
interesting answer. I cannot wait to hear what Stephanie has to think about that as well. What do you got, Stephanie?
So I have what I think is the perfect series to be adapted right now. It is called the Border Town series. It is helmed by Terry Windling. It is an anthology series. Neil Gaiman is one of the many writers that has written for it. The whole book series is a series of short story compilations. You have a few interconnected novels, but the premise of it takes place on this border town between our normal everyday world, just as we know it right now, and fairyland, elfland, fairyland, whatever you want to call it. And it's a really fun mixture of that Lord of the Rings and that old school creepy fairy tale that we see Guillermo del Toro do a lot of times. It is a beautiful blend of both. So you will have these tall, silver-haired elf figures, but then also, hey, so you know how sailors name their boats? Well, they kept talking to their boat, and now it's alive, and they have to sing it to sleep, or it's going to wake up and destroy everything. Like, that is the vibe that you're constantly getting from it. The beautiful thing about it, because it's an anthology series, means that you don't have to, there's not an expectation for it to, oh, we have to follow this set of characters. You can start completely fresh in the world. It has been built out to beautiful, beautiful detail. One of the books, every short story is interrupted between every one. You get a couple of pages like you're reading in a travel guide pamphlet. So there'll be an interruption talking about hotels, an interruption talking about restaurants, an interruption talking about navigating and things like that. So it's a beautiful, beautifully detailed world. You don't have to follow a set standard characters. It lets the creators have a certain amount of freedom with what stories they want to tell, where they want to follow. The other thing that I really appreciate, this is a series that's been around, I think since the late 80s, and it's aged really well because they had to start out with this beautiful, diverse set of writers. And so what the Border Town series does that I don't think a lot of fantasy series does well is it has a distinction between racial tensions between human folk and racial tensions between different fantasy races. Those are not the same. They're not analogous. When you have something like Bright do it in a really heavy-handed way, it comes off really cringy and basic and heavy-handed, whereas this has a lot more finesse and a lot more realism to the world itself. It's absolutely beautiful what they have done with it. And Bright actually did really well, despite the fact that I personally did not hate it. People ate that up when it came out on Netflix. It did well. And while I consider it a knockoff version of the beauty that is Bordertown, if people are going to already eat up what I consider the knockoff, how will they feel about the real thing if it actually comes to their screens?
Sure. Ooh, nice. Solid. I like this. Okay. So here's what I got. I'm very excited about this, and you guys should be too. I am blown away and intrigued by both of your answers. Stephanie, I'm going to award you 36 points for your answer, bringing your total to 42 for the game. And as everybody knows, that is ultimately the answer to everything. But Dane, because you subverted my expectations of adapted material. And Stephanie, I will say, while your story that you'd like to be adapted sounds intriguing, and I would indeed like to watch that, it does sound like an adaptable material. It sounds like something that people would go to adapt. And it also sounds like something that is similar to things that are already existent on television. I will say that Dane brought up a very interesting point to me in that you're choosing to adapt material that wouldn't necessarily immediately scream adaptation in film or television. I totally agree with you on the Eddie Murphy movie, My Name is Dolomite. I loved it, and it was a great behind-the-scenes look at exploitation Hollywood. Like, that was a great, fun, unexplored topic. And so, because of the uniqueness of your answer, I am awarding you 1 billion points. That brings your total to 1,000,000,008, which just edges you out from Stephanie with 42 as tonight's winner of The Last Word. Now, with that said, Stephanie, we're going to have to say goodbye to you for the moment. Thank you for competing. You have been a fierce competitor, and we hope to see you back again. But now is Dane's time to shine and talk about whatever he likes for the next 30 seconds. So, in just a moment, I'm going to remove Stephanie. Bye, Stephanie. Dane, you've done it, my man. You thought you were going to be the first one out. Little did you know that you would be the one with the winner's statement.
So all my years of training, it's come down to this moment.
It all comes to this moment. You have 30 seconds starting now.
All right. I told myself one thing. In the immortal words of Rowdy Roddy Piper, I came here to kick ass and chew bubblegum. Turns out I'm all out of ass, but at least I remembered the bubblegum. So now you will get to watch me chew some Big League Chew. It's watermelon flavored. And you can just deal with it. This is really good. Victory tastes sweet and watermelony.
That's wonderful. This is the best use. This is the best use of this time that I've ever seen yet. Dane, you are a true champion. I would like to bring everyone else back in. Dames, also snacking. Stephanie. And last, but definitely not least, but the only person to ever eject themselves from the game, Jeff. You could have been a contender, my friend. I appreciate
Unmute, Jeff.
Yes, Jeff.
You never beat me, you sorry son of a.
Jeff, remute.
Jeff, you got
My
I just wanna
computer
say-
went crazy for like 4 minutes. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? I come back and Dane's moving on, and I'm like, he never beat me.
I just want to say,
None of you beat me. None of you beat me.
I've seen promising young women, and I would have smoked on that answer. That's all.
You are a promising young woman, Deems.
you pay the $19.99. I doubt it.
Everybody, thank you again so much for joining us on the show. Just a reminder to everybody, go check out Dane, Dames, and Jeff on their series CF3, coming to you exclusively on the Project Nerd YouTube channel. But for now, you can also see it on the CF3 YouTube channel, so go check it out and then subscribe to us in the meantime. Also, go check out their back catalog. Ooh, Jeff, is that a hint of things to come?
Indeed.
Nice.
Keith Coogan.
Yup, you heard it here, guys. Keith Coogan, you're going to want to tune into this series. You're going to want to subscribe. You're going to want to make sure you stay up to date. Speaking of staying up to date, you're also going to want to tune into Con Moms, which, just a reminder, PSA, it is not about incarcerated mothers. Instead, it is about cons, cosplay, and all such amazing nerdiness. Stephanie is a wonderful co-host of that show. So please go subscribe. That show is also going to be on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to all of these amazing people. Subscribe to this series itself. Make sure you're here every other Wednesday for a brand new episode of The Last Word. And I've been your host, Q. And these guys have been something. We'll see you next time.
Bye.